Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Forever Sequence. My name is Alicia, I am 35 years old, and I've recently been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. So this is my first video, and I will be talking about how I went from suspecting I may be on the spectrum to formally getting a diagnosis. If you like this video and find it helpful, especially if you suspect you're on the spectrum or you're newly diagnosed, I ask that you please hit the lovely like and subscribe buttons below. This whole journey started after I read the book The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. It's about a 30-year-old woman with Asperger's who decides to hire an escort for lessons on dating. I won't spoil the story, so that's all you're gonna get. But I really enjoyed the book. It was different and well written, and there was a part of me who understood the main character's logic and thought processes. So for whatever reason, after I finished the book, I decided to read the author's notes section, which I don't always do, but for whatever reason that night I did. And Helen Hoang described, her thought process behind coming up with a storyline. The major thing she asked herself was, why would an attractive, young, successful woman feel the need to hire an escort? And it dawned on her from previous knowledge that autistic people tend to have difficulties with social skills and different social interactions. While Helen Hoang is doing, her research into autism in girls and women, she started recognizing herself in a lot of these descriptions, and it hit her that she may be autistic. And since then, she has been formally diagnosed. Something just really touched me about Helen Hoang's story. I've always had a bit of a fascination in regards to autism. In general, I've always been fascinated with, the different ways people can communicate, like the deaf community, for example. But I had no idea that there were such differences in how autism can be perceived and present in males and females. So I immediately went down a rabbit hole into research, specifically in regards to autistic females. And I saw myself in so many of these descriptions and women's stories, and it was just like, bam, my whole life made sense for the first time. I think it was like 1 in the morning, and I texted my mom. It was just basically like, I think I'm on the spectrum. And I just went on about what I learned about specifically women with Asperger's. It really went from me just reading a chick lit book for escapism reasons to suspecting I may be on the spectrum. One of the resources Helen Hoang mentioned was the book Aspergirls by Rudy Simone. So I ordered it the next day. Actually, no, I started reading some of it that night because Google Play had it available. It had like the first 50 pages available for free to preview, or something like that. For any woman who suspects they are autistic or newly diagnosed, I definitely recommend reading Aspergirls, not just for yourself, but also sharing it with the people in your life, like your parents or a significant other, anyone that's like just really in your close circle. It just really puts things into a clearer focus. So here are some of the key Aspy traits that I identified with. This is a very detailed subject, but I will try to distill some of the key points. Masking is a process when a person learns and performs certain behaviors while suppressing their natural instincts in order to appear normal. Girls and women on the spectrum tend to mask more than males because we are taught at a young age to act in a certain way that is deemed more socially acceptable. And because of this, we often evade a diagnosis well into adulthood. For me, while I don't have any conscious memories of imitating the other girls around me, I know that I do tend to absorb other people's mannerisms without realizing it. Or I become like the social chameleon who adjusts my behavior and mannerisms to fit in with whatever social group I find myself in. In the long run, masking can cause extreme burnout and fatigue. You know, just imagine constantly changing or hiding who you really are to be accepted as normal. There are still times when I get extremely confused and doubt what I truly believe or feel because I'm so used to being that social chameleon. Which leads me to number 2. Many people on the spectrum, not just women, are prone to depression and anxiety when it comes to things that, you know, many neurotypicals find easier, especially when it comes to social situations. If you're constantly feeling like you're putting on a facade or suppressing your natural instincts, it's like telling yourself you aren't right or that you aren't enough. At least that's what I get from hearing a lot of other women's stories. That is my story. Depression and anxiety is something I've struggled with since I was a kid, with varying degrees throughout my life. But I didn't seek professional help for the first time until I was in my mid-20s. And now, of course, at 35, I'm just getting my autism diagnosis. One of the criteria used to determine if you're on the spectrum is having intense special interest or collections of things. Usually with males, you hear special interests like, and this is gonna sound stereotypical, but trains or games or tech things, comic books. With females, our special interests tend to be focused on people and the arts. For me, yes to both. Absolutely. There are certain celebrities and fictional characters that I've just been obsessed with. Like, I know everything about them, and I get extremely attached to a fictional character to the point that, like, if something bad happens to them, it causes me distress. I'm a little better at regulating those impulses because I know it can cause me to go down a rabbit hole. But my hyper focus and obsession with certain celebrities and characters was really intense through my childhood and into my late 20s. I'm very sensitive to loud sounds. I've always been terrified of thunderstorms ever since I was a kid. To this day, like I freak out. I have to isolate myself in a room that has no windows, or, you know, put my headphones on and surround myself with calm things until literally the storm is over. I also have a strong aversion to fireworks, balloon popping, gives me extreme anxiety, door slams, or anything that's just suddenly loud. But thunderstorms remain the worst. Now that I'm aware of how sensitive I am to certain sounds, it's really made me seek out tools to help me cope better. Trouble making eye contact is one of the key diagnostic traits for anyone on the spectrum. But I just want to say, just because some of us are averse to it, doesn't mean we can't do it. I have heard horror stories from other women who during an evaluation have been told that they couldn't possibly be autistic because they were able to make eye contact. I can make eye contact and do make eye contact when I need to. The thing is, neurotypicals tend to not have an inner monologue going on about the quality of their eye contact while doing it. Sometimes I find myself thinking, am I looking too hard, too long? Should I blink more just to break it up? Should I just look at their forehead? I mean, there's like a constant checking in to make sure that I'm not being weird. Again, this isn't everyone's experience, but it is mine. I do notice when a conversation turns more personal and people ask me about myself or how I'm feeling, that's when I have a problem making eye contact. Those are some of the things that I identified with during my research. This is by no means an extensive list of autistic traits, but these were the top 5 that really stuck out for me. So, after doing my research and writing out everything I felt matched, with autistic traits in girls and women, I talked to my therapist and my psychiatrist and told them that I suspected that I may have Asperger's. And they were both like, huh, tell me more. Neither of them are specialists in the area, but they were very receptive and very open. I totally understand those who choose not to get evaluated or diagnosed just from the cost alone. Unfortunately, these type of services aren't readily accessible to everyone, even if you do have insurance, at least here in the States. But I ended up finding a clinical psychologist who was experienced in diagnosing autism in adults, and his fee was in my budget. What also made me want to go with him was that he had a support group pre-COVID for Black adults on the spectrum, and I was just really impressed with that. You know, a lot of the research I'd done included YouTube searches of women with Asperger's and hearing their stories. What I didn't see were a whole lot of Black people, or in general people of color's point of view, especially in the States. So I was really excited about the possibility of there being a space available for me with other people who look like me, and we could share our unique experiences. A majority of the session was talking about what brought me in, my history, what my relationship is like with other people. And the second part was me answering a questionnaire, which I later found out after I took it was called the AQ test. By the end of the session, he diagnosed me as having mild Asperger's. Again, we can talk about some of the terminology used, maybe in another video. Overall, I felt relief. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that, you know, certain doubts started to creep in. I kept feeling paranoid that maybe he didn't believe me, maybe he was just trying to appease me, maybe I should have answered that question differently, you know, it wasn't clear. All of these thoughts were going on. And then I would look back at my research and some of my old diary entries, and I was like, nope, you're good. It's clear, Alicia. There's no doubt. So yeah, immediately after my evaluation, I called my mom and told her, and she was just so happy for me. We've just both felt like, you know, we finally had gotten the missing piece of the puzzle. And since then, I've only told about maybe 3 other people privately, and now I'm here making it public. Overall, this process has been a a relief and a rewarding experience to finally have the answer to a lot of questions. I remember my mom saying something like, you know, I knew there was something. I knew that all this just couldn't be anxiety. Now we know. So what now? Right now, I'm learning more about myself through this new lens and connecting with other Aspies online, and it's been really helpful. I feel like I'm constantly learning and gaining new tools to help me navigate through this mostly neurotypical world. I'd also like other Black Aspies out there and other people of color Aspies to know that you're not alone. You don't really see a lot of people who look like me when we're talking about autism, when we're talking about Asperger's. But we're here, and if I can help you feel less alone, then I'm happy to do so. And I would love to hear your stories. I am still learning about autism and in general neurodiversity, so please forgive me if I say something wrong or incorrectly. I hope you'll continue to follow this channel by liking, sharing, subscribing. Please share this video with anyone who you think can benefit from it. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.